What is clearly a myth but is deep-rooted in our society? Body hair grows thicker after it's been shaved. Does anybody remember that urban legend that claimed Tommy Hilfiger was on either Oprah or Rosie O'Donnell's show and said something along the lines of, "If I knew my clothes were going to be worn by black people, I would never have made them"? I was thinking about it the other day and was wondering how this alleged quote, which was pre-internet, managed to become widespread without mass communication and widely accepted as true. I hear Tommy Hilfiger had to create a press release saying he never was on any of those TV programs. That you can use a defibrillator, paddles, to restart a stopped heart. You do regular CPR for that. The paddles are meant to shock an arrhythmic heartbeat back onto a normal rhythm. They don't work when your heart isn't beating. Effing Hollywood. The fact that in the US, an employer can have a policy that says you can't discuss your wages with co-workers. It is illegal for them to even have a written or oral policy stating you can't discuss wages with others. Shaving a lot of times gives you a beard. Watermelon seeds will still grow in my stomach. Thanks for ruining my childhood, Angelica Pickles. Swimming within 30 minutes of eating isn't dangerous. It doesn't cause cramps. Waiting 30 minutes makes it much less likely for kids to vomit. The widespread belief that people are sabotaging Halloween candy with needles and razors, despite there being IIRC only one documented case in the US, ever. Also, that people are lacing the kids' candy with drugs. Drugs are expensive, nobody is going to waste their stash on random kids. If you get a raise that puts you into a new tax bracket, you will actually owe more money. My mom used to think getting a raise would result in her making less. Then when I entered the workforce, I saw someone say something similar. I was shocked to learn that this was a common belief. Edit. Hearing people talking about how employers perpetuated this idea makes me feel lucky. Never had an employer tell me that. Awful to hear them lie. There used to be a thing in Korea about fan death. This linked a belief that a running fan would eventually deprive a room of oxygen and could kill the occupants if they left it running too long. Apparently the belief was prevalent enough that all fans sold there were usually equipped with a safety auto shut-off timer mechanism, kind of like clothes, steam irons. This is in India. If you pass out, faint, rub the person's feet to wake them up. TV serials taught the population this trick. Now people do this for all passing out, including drownings, heart attacks, and other serious ailments. An engagement ring has to have a diamond. And also as a general rule it should be worth 3 months of your salary. Both come from an incredibly successful marketing campaign by diamond mining trading company called De Beers. A cop has to tell you they are a cop if you ask. Not encouraging criminals here, but if you're up to some shady shit and think someone might be a cop, shut up and leave, go about your shady business later somewhere else. That OCD is liking things to be extremely neat, tidy or organized. The amount of myths, clever marketing and bro science in the health and nutrition world is honestly too much to even list here. That a polygraph test can actually be used to detect if someone is lying. This is still used in law enforcement. It's insane. That the average person swallows 7 spiders a year in their sleep. Where TF did that even come from? I DK about you guys, but I've had a grand total of 0 spiders climb on me while I've been awake this year. I can't imagine there's any chance that I've had 7 crawl on me while I'm sleeping, let alone crawl on me, and make their way directly into my mouth. Adding another lane will make traffic go away. Chiropractors are back doctors. They're not doctors, nothing they do has any basis in medicine, they basically just crack air pockets in your joints and call it a treatment for an ailment that only they can fix. Gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. Leaning your head back for a bloody nose. That you need to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. If you sincerely think someone is missing, then report it. The faster that a missing person report is filed, the better chance there is that the person will be found. This is especially crucial when it comes to missing children. That black ladybugs with red spots are poisonous. That Marilyn Manson removed 2 ribs to be able to suck himself off. The alpha-beta social hierarchy that we observed in wolves. The researcher who performed the experiment realized he had made many mistakes in his original take, and has spent the rest of his life trying to undo the damage that report has created. That you can't get pregnant if X. Many things can lower fertility, but unless you literally do not have a uterus and/or ovaries, there's always a chance, for better or worse, BTW, as some of these pregnancies can be dangerous. I've known infertile women who mothered kids because their husband was hyperfertile, their hormonal levels shifted as they got older, their birth control failed because of medication or surgery, etc., etc. Assume there's a risk, or a chance, unless the equipment isn't there. Cats don't get attached to their owners but to the house. Completely wrong. That the marshmallow experiment demonstrated that kids who can delay gratification will be more successful later in life. On further review, it was discovered that what it actually demonstrated was that kids who are not economically disadvantaged will be more successful. But the most recent study found no meaningful correlation between the ability to delay gratification as a child and success later in life. This link. The belief that lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Actually it does, and sometimes with great frequency. The Middle Ages were less barbaric and dark than we think. Anyone says you can trim fat in X area by doing Y exercises. Totally impossible. You lose fat proportionally over all areas of your body, you can't just target one area to work on. If you shave your hair, it will grow back faster, darker, and/or coarser. MSG is harmful and East Asian cuisine is bad because of MSG. The alpha crap people still use in dog training. Even the guy who came up with it regrets it. It turns out if you're mean to your dog, it's probably going to be mean back. And if it's not, you've successfully traumatized it into being scared shitless of you. That 13 is a scary number. Buildings don't even have a 13th floor because of this Bologna. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Bro, that was a commercial. You've spent your entire life repeating a commercial from before you were born. 1. That some people are left-brained or right-brained. The brain has a lot of cells and they all work together. There are plenty of different types of brain cells, neurons, but they don't operate in isolation. Think of the brain more like a muscle. You have fast-twitch muscle fibers and slow-twitch muscle fibers, but they exist and coordinate in the same bicep. Also like a muscle, the more you use certain parts of your brain, the better you get. When you start playing piano, you suck. After lots of repetition and practice, you become competent. You are literally able to do something you weren't able to do before. This is called neuroplasticity and it works the same way for creativity, math, etc. The more you practice math, creativity or anything else, the better you'll get. 2. The idea that humans only use X% of their brains. This is so silly. You don't have a bunch of brain that isn't on. Your brain cells consume different levels of glucose during different activities, so your brain's activation pattern looks different depending on what you're doing, but there isn't an area of your brain that's just off and inaccessible. Some areas are more active or less active during different activities. It's illegal to have your interior light going in the car lol. I'm Britain, kids are told that if they eat carrots it will help them see in the dark. This originated from World War II. It's crazy how many people actually still believe it. Edit. I thought this was only a British myth. Fact told as kids as I found out it came during WW2 during the bombings, I didn't know it's worldwide spread. Cool to see though, and that there's actually some truth to it. That getting caught in rain causes a cold. That only women have a biological clock, and that time runs out on it. While men can impregnate a woman while advanced in age, it's not always a good idea. The older a man gets, the more likely their sperm is to have genetic defects. Men over 40 have a higher chance of having children with birth defects, autism, schizophrenia, and pregnancy loss in their partner. And I've also read that some studies are suggesting that certain types of leukemia in children are tied to paternal age as well. For some reason, people don't talk about paternal age during conception much. Only about women's ages. And when I've mentioned this in the past on Reddit, I've gotten a lot angry men calling me a liar. As if it's hard to grasp that when bodies age, sperm production and viability age right along with them. Sperm isn't some sort of anomaly that will remain perfect from ages 10 to 100. Everything ages. Swimmers too, my dudes. Edit. Added the part about leukemia that I forgot to include. Sitting too close to the TV will make you go blind. Your family and relatives will always be there for you and blood never betrays, etc. Bigger is better in bed. A former friend of mine once told me of a guy she dated who was so big she said, no way that thing is going inside of me. She didn't say his name but only referred to him as horsecock. That you shouldn't divorce because think of the children. The main emotional trauma that comes with divorce actually happens in the months and weeks before a divorce, when the child is used as in merely a point in an argument. If you both want to divorce, then do so. Dominance in dog training. Edit. And as this post shows, the dominance theory is still permeating the culture and its advocates are pushing back despite the evidence to the contrary. Hard work always pays off. I know people that work like horses in heat on Adderall till retirement and get fuck all for it. Edit. I'd like to point out I'm not saying working hard is always a pointless endeavor. You can't get anywhere if you don't, unless you're born already, somewhere. But it's taught as though, throwing yourself at whatever work you can, will prosper you, and that is often simply not true. You either have to know, or be trained to know, how to put your hard work into the right areas and not put up with people who expect your hard work for little in return. You have to work smart as well as hard. But once you've done it for a while, it's enough to just work moderately. The point stands, hard work always pays off, is a myth most of us get taught as children. That black cats bring bad luck. Really fucking stupid. Plus black cats look cool as fuck. Bigfoot. Think about it, it's got lots of layers. Adults have always had stories to keep their kids from wandering off and getting into things they shouldn't. People come up with stories that are contextual to their lives. Native people would not have had stories about strangers with candy in vans to keep kids from wandering off. Everything that early indigenous people would have had knowledge of was related to the environments around them. Wild things, wild places, wild people. Also, take into consideration the fact that Homo sapiens have shared this planet with several other hominid species over time. How uncanny valley-ish must it be to stumble into a group of people that kind of look like us, but definitely aren't us. Imagine how early man had to treat living life and raising a family on Earth. Don't wander off or disappear into the woods, there's kinda people in there that will do who knows what. The persistence of Bigfoot belief all over the globe, combined with the fact that there just isn't a Bigfoot, we would have a body by now, or thousands of trail cam pictures at the very least, tells me that there is something very deep-rooted inside of us that puts big hairy wild woods people in our minds. Nuclear power is extremely dangerous and worse than fossil fuels in both the short and long term. That the Myers-Briggs test has any weight whatsoever, beyond being fun, a conversation starter. Here are a few in marine biology. 1. Lobsters can't feel pain. This is to make people feel better about boiling him alive. Well, very unfun fact. Not only can they feel pain, they're actually very sensitive to temperature changes, so it hurts even more than a person boiling alive. 2. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. Goldfish are actually pretty needy as pet fish go, but they look pretty and kids like them. So pet stores came up with the myth that they have a 3-second memory, so they could get away with putting them in tiny, cramped bowls by saying, every lap is a new experience. In fact, they have a memory of about 6 to 10 months, quite impressive for their size, and just one goldfish needs a very large terrarium. Goldfish die after a few weeks in the conditions they were usually in. 3. Goldfish are just food for bigger fish. Goldfish being kept in horrible conditions happened so much that some people got the idea that goldfish were literally just meant as food for bigger fish. Which is horrible. 4. Octopuses can't feel pain after the head, everything above the eyes, is cut off. Similar the lobster one, octopuses can actually feel pain for up to 20 minutes afterwards because they have a decentralized nervous system to make each of their tentacles easier to control. They also feel a lot of said pain. They're missing their whole torso, after all. That is *4* Corporation made myths about an incredibly specific subject. I could probably go on for years if I knew them all. 1. That justice is blind. 2. That good always prevails. Zodiac signs. People be using your birthday to find boyfriend, girlfriend. Dude, as if I have a choice to choose my birthday. That losing your virginity should hurt when you have a vagina. In reality, the hymen isn't really that much of a thing as society makes you believe. It isn't proof of virginity either. If being penetrated the first time is painful, the person with the vagina is not physically ready to be penetrated. The vagina lengthens and lubricates itself when the person is aroused so that it can accommodate a penis. Foreplay and maybe give them an orgasm before penetration to ensure the vagina is ready. TLDR, is they're tight and dry, they're not ready for penetrative sex. Get them good and horny first. ETA. Some have pointed out that some people may have a thick hymen that does need to be broken and is therefore painful, but it's not that common at all. This link and the myth that it always is painful is therefore still untrue. Sorry to those who do experience this, I didn't mean to invalidate you. Freudian theory of psychoanalysis. It's so rooted in culture that regular people cannot believe how wrong it is. It has been debunked several times. Copy pasta from Quora. Here are 3 specific instances where Freud, or Freudian psychoanalysts, have been way off. 1. Capris Syndrome. 1. This is a rare condition in which a victim of a stroke or accident is able to recognize their close family members, like their mother, but they insist that the person claiming to be their mother is in fact an imposter. The Freudian explanation goes in terms of the Oedipus complex. The patient as a child was sexually attracted to his mother, as all boys are supposed to be, in a Freudian world. This then got repressed with the onset of adolescence. But the stroke or accident damaged the brain in such a way that the suppressed Oedipus complex resurfaced. The patient then reasoned that since he is sexually attracted to this woman, she could not be his mother. Ingenious but completely bogus. There is a neurological explanation in terms of how various stages of visual processing work in the human brain. The important difference is that it is testable, or falsifiable, through imaging techniques like fMRI. Incidentally, some patients report the same feeling about their pet dog. This dog looks just like Casper, but it is another dog. How does the Freudian hypothesis explain that? 2. Apotemnophilia, or body integrity identity disorder. This is another rare condition in which the patient disowns one of his limbs, say his left arm. He wants it amputated at a very specific place which he can demarcate by drawing a line. Once again, Freudian explanations invoke sexuality. Something about wish fulfillment, or a desire for a stump that resembles a giant penis. Or something about attention seeking, which doesn't really explain why this particular mode of seeking attention. And again, there is a neurological explanation which provides a testable hypothesis to work off. A region of the brain called the superior parietal lobule, SPL, constructs your body image by combining visual, touch, and vestibular, sense of balance, inputs. When a limb lacks a representation in this region, a discrepancy arises between the body image in the SPL and sensory inputs because the patient can see that the limb is there. This creates a feeling of foreignness about the limb. 3. Homosexuality and parenting. Up until at least the 1970s, the dominant diagnosis in the West for homosexuality in men, treated as a pathology at the time, was in terms of early childhood experiences and parenting styles. 2. Thus, parents who wished for a girl child, domineering or overprotective mothers, and emotionally absent fathers would have boys growing up to become gay men. By the start of the 1980s, it was becoming clear that none of these factors actually mattered and that predisposition towards homosexuality had a biological basis. Since then, homosexuality has been observed in hundreds of species of animals. A fraternal birth order effect has been confirmed. Each older brother increases the probability of a boy being gay by about 33%, and the heritability of sexual orientation has been estimated to be greater than 50%. In general, Freud's theories hugely overemphasize the influence of childhood experience and specifically childhood sexual fantasies in shaping the personalities of adults. Footnotes. 1. Adventures in Behavioral Neurology, or What Neurology Can Tell Us About Human Nature. 2. Homosexuality. Parents Aren't Always to Blame. Published 1971. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and liking. Any feedback in the comments would be greatly appreciated so that we can make these videos even better. Thanks for watching Upvote Stories.